everyone, welcome back to my channel, and for today's video I am doing a review of Derwent Pastel Shades Paint Pan set, which is a watercolour set of paints. And first of all I'm going to unbox them as these are brand new. So they come in an outer wrapping like this. And then inside is the box of paints, I hope. So it's also got some cellophane on it, just to keep the paints fresh, I guess. So here's the paint box, and it has 12 different colours of pastel shades and a colour shade chart. So 6 on the top and 6 on the bottom. It also comes with a brush, one of the ones that you load with water. So it's entirely independent from taking separate water with you, and a little sponge pad on the side to rinse your brush off. So I filled it with water, and these brushes are really good if you're going out and painting outside, or if you're doing sketchbooks and things, but I wouldn't advise them for finished paintings. So the paints are quite of a creamy texture, quite good. I'm just trying it out on a piece of spare paper there before I do this shade sampler. And what I like to do when I do a shade sampler is to have a dark side and a light side, so I can see how light I can make the paint go, how transparent it is, or if it's a staining paint or not. So we add more water, and to add more water we're using a brush like this. You just squeeze the brush. It's more difficult to control than water on a traditional brush, but say they are quite handy to take out with you. And to clean them, you just squeeze so that the water comes through and wipe it on a tissue, or you can wipe it on that sponge on the side, but it will make that very dirty. So I tend to use a tissue instead of using the sponge. So the second colour, which is an orange, pale orange. Sorry if you can hear the geese, but we live with a farm at the back of us, and because it's warm the windows open, so I can hear the geese, but I think it's rather nice. And you can kind of use the brushes to take up some excess paint and water, like you would use a thirsty brush when you dry off your brush and then you use it to kind of dab up excess water. It's not quite as easy with these brushes, but it still does work. So now I've speeded it up a bit because I don't want to bore you. So you see the left side I've tried to make darker, and then try and add more water to the right side to make it a paler colour, just to give me a full tone colour. And I'm using watercolour paper here just because it will give me a better result. And I'm actually going to use the right hand side of this paper to do my painting, my little sketch, to try out these paints. Because they're very pale pastel shades, then I think I'm going to do a flower or flowers, because that's the kind of thing I would paint with these colours. They're not really landscape colours or anything. The other thing I think I would use them for is for painting like a cake or something like that has pastel shades on it. I wouldn't use them for portraits, but they are a fun set of colours. So I'm doing a different technique to what I usually use here. I'm going to actually draw with the paint. Normally I draw out first in pencil, but I'm doing this straight onto the paper. It's not a technique I really like, but I just thought it would free up this watercolour a little and I would have a go, because it's always good to do things outside of your comfort zone. This definitely drawing straight onto paper without any pre-drawing is out of my comfort zone. But I'm playing, and I love playing with paints. It's really good fun to just see what happens without the pressure. You know, this is not going to be a masterpiece. This is just a sketch. And I am enjoying the process of doing this sketch. Now, I don't want to bore you by doing all of this in real time, so I'm just doing this first bit in real time, and in a moment I'm going to speed it all up. Because on the whole, when I'm doing a sketch for my YouTube channel, I tend to take about 3 hours. This one did not take me 3 hours. This probably took me about an hour and 15 minutes. So it was quite quick, but it is quite a simple little sketch. But just having fun, putting the paint down, seeing what happens, how I can make bits darker, bits paler. And if you see, I've got kind of a piece of scrap paper on the left, which I use for just trying out colours. And the paper that I have used is a Bockingford watercolour by De La Rowney, and it is £140 in weight. So it's quite a nice heavy paper, and it's a paper that I always suggest to my students who are starting out, because it takes the colour well, it doesn't cockle too much at that weight, and it just gives you a nice finish. It's not the paper I use for my finished paintings, but it is the one that I use for a lot of sketches. And I think probably the most important thing with watercolour is your paper. To me, anyway. Other people will say other things, but to me the paper is the most important thing in getting a good finish. So I'm trying to use all the colours. So some I'm just using as a background, and or to put in a few sort of like floating flowers. And when you do the background, it kind of makes the foreground plump out a bit. If you use a darker colour for the background, then it brings the flower forward, and you're almost using the darks to show up the lights, if that makes sense. Because those pale petals wouldn't actually show if I didn't have something dark in the background. And here I'm just doing the centres of the flowers and adding a bit more definition by adding some more darks. So these paints, I'm enjoying using them. The one thing I did find with them, which I'm sure I can remedy, was the fact that some of them were a bit loose. The little pans were loose in the palette, so I had to be careful not to jog them, kind of make them come out. But I think that I could just probably fix them in better. So this is the first time I've used any paints by Derwent. I've used lots of their pencils, but I've never used any of their paints, and I find them very nice. I tend to use, for my finished paintings and for my sketches, I don't use pan paints so much. I use paints from the tube, but these pan paints will be very nice to actually take out on location with you, because they're always much easier to handle on location than having tubes. And the colours are really vibrant, so I'm pleased with that. And they do these sets in lots of different colour palettes. I've got another set which I've done, or I'm doing a review of, which is the Graffy Tint, which I've done with the pencils as well, which are very dark greyish colours, which would be great for winter pictures. This one's lovely for spring colours, I think, for flowers. And as I said, you could make sort of a nice painting of cupcakes with icing and things on. So that's what I would use them for. But you might want them for portraits, I don't know. But yes, I would recommend them. By the way, I bought these myself. I'm not being paid by Derwent or anybody else to market them. But I found them a nice little palette to use. And I've just looked it up, and currently Derwent do 8 different colour palettes, and they range in price sort of, well, with the Society for All Artists, if you're a member, you can get them for £20.50 for the one set, or £26.99 if you're not a member. So reasonably priced. However, if this was going to be your only set of paints, I wouldn't say to get this colour range. They have other ranges, like the Inktense palette might be better. Inktense palette number 1 has a better selection of colours if you were going to do landscapes. And then they have a metallic set, shade and tone set, and various others, but you can look them up. But as I said, I think I would recommend them. Yes, I've enjoyed using them. And would I buy one of the other sets? Yes, I would. So hope that's been helpful, and hope to see you next time. And if you would like to see more of my videos, consider subscribing, and please like the video if you liked it. And see you next time. Take care, stay safe, stay well, and happy painting. Bye.
It's hard to breathe inside the dome. I used to call home, stuck in the world that I was craving for. I try to change the way I see the world around me, but every time I end up where I begin. In the same way, I always do my part. I try to make it stay. It's the same place.